From LALATE News headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Mornings LALATE.
It's a big morning of Mornings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check date of 2022. And overnight, the White House releases $15,000 to $80,000 of new stimulus checks. On the latest details in today's recording, we'll be going back over to Ukraine and how it impacts your wallet at home, and how that wallet is impacted not just by oil, but also by wheat, a new risk not assessed by the White House. All the latest details across the board. But we're going to start first with the Build Back Better Act needed because oil prices are surging. All the latest details on that Build Back Better Act that the President of the United States says is going to pay you money. All the credible checks that are in that fourth stimulus recon, and the latest fourth stimulus check update 2022 today. We'll be going to CR for Stimulus 1.0 right around the corner, and SS 300. Great news as Jay Powell signals that inflation's coming down, but after Joe Biden can swap it out for COLA. Then we have the new February jobs reports released minutes ago, and you need these numbers because guess what? It signals where inflation would impact your benefits for SS 300. And then later in this video, I'm going to show you how to get thousands of dollars, in addition to those new $15,000 to $80,000 of stimulus checks. Then we'll be touching back on what's happening overseas and the battleground of Ukraine versus Russia and how it's impacting situations at home. We'll have a preview of tonight's evening's LA as the situation is unfolding, especially when it concerns oil and wheat, and why the president's Treasury Secretary this morning was not particularly accurate and not particularly responsive when answering questions about why oil production has not increased in the United States during this act of aggression. I'll have the latest details on that in a preview of today's broadcast. But guess what? It's Mornings LA, and we're live on air direct from Santa Monica, California, and the toast is toasted. The butter is buttering, and the coffee is brewing. And can you smell those $80,000 of new stimulus checks? Incredible. The deliciousness starts right now. If only we had some bacon. It's Mornings. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day, and it's even more beautiful because guess what? $80,000 of new stimulus checks are going out, and we have the breaking news about this incredible sums of money, and it's huge. I have the latest later in this video. Stay with me. My focus is to get you these new checks just announced minutes ago. But first, we'll start with the Build Back Better Act. The President of the United States reassuring the American people it's going out, and it is for stimulus. I have the latest on that. Then we'll be looking to SS 300, the great news about the February jobs report released minutes ago, how it impacts your benefits if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, and railroad benefits. Then, when we talk about Vladimir Putin and Ukraine, we usually talk about oil and gas, but we haven't been talking about wheat. At least this channel has, but elsewhere, Wall Street hasn't. And now wheat is out of control as Vladimir Putin pushes into Odessa. On the latest details of how this could cause economic disparity in the United States as wheat prices are surging at the time of this recording. Then we'll be turning back to the big money that you can get and all those incredible sums of money you need across the board. It's a big broadcast of Mornings LA direct from Santa Monica, California. But first, let's go right into that Build Back Better Act. Fourth stimulus recon is the Build Back Better Act, and the President of the United States mentioned it during the State of the Union address this week. He said all those incredible checks are going out, and thank goodness they are. There's 3 classes of checks and 3 add-ons of checks that amount to about $15,000. Let's go over some of these checks broadly, but we're going to go over them more specifically in tonight's primetime broadcast, Evenings LA at 5 o'clock, the most watched financial show in prime time. Those details coming up tonight. But first, let's go over some of these checks broadly. 3 classes and 3 add-ons. Hazard pay got in there for my essential workers. 1 more year, $3,600 across the board as well for the CTC checks, $4,000 of elder care checks, $4,000 of care for young children, and then the home repairs. Incredible. $550 checks for the Pell Grant college students, and then money for a new electric vehicle. There are also 3 add-on checks, and those 3 add-on checks, the first one comes from here in the shores of Santa Monica, California, where you're watching me live from the beaches of Santa Monica, California. The first add-on checks comes from Maxine Waters, our legislator here. And what is it? Wow. It is a little bit less than $25,000 for the purchase of your first home. It is incredible. Let's turn to that second cluster of checks. Home repairs and paid leave. Paid leave is if you have to stay home due to sickness or illness. How much does it pay? A lot. $70,000 or less. Annual income, you get $1,700 a week. $35,000 annual salary, $15,000 a week. And then $15,000 annual salary, $400 a week. Incredible. W-2, 1099, you all get these incredible sums of money. Now, the second add-on of checks, not law yet, but should have been law decades ago. Thank goodness it's becoming law under Build Back Better Act. $250 billion approximately for free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Got it in there. Learn about it more tonight on that primetime broadcast of Evenings LA. Let's go to that third cluster of checks in Build Back Better that's going to become law. Free internet for all checks, farmer checks, independent contractor checks, nutrition checks, and seniors checks. Need that free internet right now? Well, watch the community page during the commercial break because it's available right now from Second Stimulus. The volunteers will help you find it. Under the Build Back Better, the House Democrats got in there provisions for seniors, but Senate Democrats are vowing to add other ones. On the House side, they got in there lowering the eligibility age. They got the hearing checks in there and the Medicaid gap fix. But on the Senate side, they vow to add in there dental, vision, and lowering the eligibility age of Medicare, which is par for the course when we talk about senators adding checks when we look at MSC. MSC is a body of additional checks that would be added to the fourth stimulus recon that already has $15,000 to $60,000 of checks in there for you across the board. Who gets it? Eligibility would be the same as a third stimulus check legislators represent. And if you see later to this video where I show you the new $80,000 in new checks, the eligibility is the same number once again. Let's go over it if you remember or forgot who got third stimulus checks. Single individuals, $75,000 or less, you qualified for it and would get it again. Married couple, $150,000 or less, yes, you as well, but double it. Family of 4, quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security Rail benefits, you also get it. It's not California stimulus. We get electric surfboard instead. And it comes off of the direct deposit account on the tax return, otherwise mailed in the mail. How much? $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for up to 6 months. That is the MSC checks that would be added to the fourth stimulus recon. Now, when adding checks to the fourth stimulus recon, there is a lot of checks that can be added in there, but there's also a lot of opportunities to get checks even sooner than that. And the first opportunity to get a check sooner than that is CR for stimulus. And the great news today is that CR for stimulus is heading to the finish line in view of world events and also what's happening at home. CR for stimulus has a $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds available for it in there that amounts to at least enough for a $2,000 stimulus check. And the great news is that despite the president's attempt to take some of that money yesterday for COVID, which is not happening, still leaves you enough for a check. CR for stimulus was the creation of my recordings on this channel in 2020. In early 2020, a first stimulus check landed in our hands. We used it up. We needed more money. So then, for months, we heard about second stimulus negotiations underway. Nancy Pelosi, Steve Mnuchin, no deal, 11 months. So I came up with the idea on this channel to put a stimulus check into something else called a continuing resolution, CR. It's a bill to fund the federal government every 3 to 6 months. I liked it because it's bipartisan support, inherent deadline, and small. So I made the first recording. I said, let's put a stimulus check in the CR. And you, the Purple Power community of this channel, pushed and advocated, called, texted, tweeted, and advocated to legislators to put it in there. And we as a community made history. I made history because the $600 stimulus check went into the CR. You made history because you got it done. Ironically, second stimulus fell apart. Never had a bill, never had a check. So 5 weeks ago on this channel, I said to viewers, do you want me to bring it back? They said, it? I said, yeah, that thing. And they said, yes. And it's back on, baby. $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds are in a continuing resolution now set for mid-March with bipartisan support, House and Senate, Republicans and Democrats, negotiations done. And while Joe Biden wants to take a little bit of the money maybe for COVID, we don't have to worry because there's still enough for a potential $2,000 stimulus check. That's why you need to advocate. We're right at the edge of the finish line, and I'll have the latest details on CR for Stimulus 1.0 in the second half of this recording. But the next thing on the fastest horizon right behind that is what's impacted by this guy. His name, Jay Powell. He's head of your Federal Reserve. And while the President of the United States has to fix some things, the President cannot fix inflation. That's what Jay Powell does. And Jay Powell is going to reduce inflation. But you don't want him to reduce it just yet until Joe Biden swaps out your COLA for inflation if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Railroad benefits. And boy, folks, we got great news about that this week from Jay Powell. What is he doing with interest rates? What is he doing with inflation? The latest on mornings coming up after the commercial break. Plus, the new jobs report released minutes ago. And does it signal that inflation is out of control? You'll be surprised what the jobs report said. Then we'll be turning back to that big sum of money no one saw coming, $15,000 to $80,000 of checks announced by the White House this morning. Who gets these checks? How do you get the checks? And why did it surprise everyone, including myself? It's a payout you ain't going to see anywhere else because this is where we find the checks, folks, and cash them. It's coming up later in this video, and in addition to third stimulus, which continues to deliver big sums of money to the viewership of this channel. That's coming up in just a second. But also, we're going to cover the situation unfolding that impacts your wallet. And the situation that has not been risk assessed yet is wheat. Wheat prices are growing out of control. And while we never thought of Russia and Ukraine as impacting our wheat prices at home, it is. And it's not a risk that Wall Street has embedded into the markets just yet. Wall Street talking extensively really about oil. And while oil has been a big success story on this channel in the last few days, wheat is now joining the coverage of this channel because wheat is something you may feel faster at the supermarket because of the acts of oppression by Vladimir Putin. And you can't have wheat prices out of control, nor can you have oil. Meantime, earlier today, the Treasury Secretary under Janet Yellen spoke about oil prices. During his interview about Vladimir Putin, his comments were inaccurate, evasive, and unresponsive, and in fact, very out of touch. So I'll go over why he was so incorrect and why he needs to get on point. Meantime, we're looking back at Odessa. Where is Odessa right now? What is the situation unfolding overseas in Ukraine? All the latest details from the battleground and how it impacts you back at home. It's a big second half of this broadcast, live from Santa Monica, California, with the big money, including those big $80,000 of checks, coming up in just a second. But first, if you need help, here's a little bit about the community page. See you back in 60 seconds. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily.
then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
And good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day across the coast here in Santa Monica, California. Watching me live, direct from the coast of Santa Monica. We'll be looking back at the situation over in Ukraine in just a second. But first, we're going to go back into your big money. And the breaking news, as more checks have been released, and you need them in view of the situation unfolding with oil and wheat overnight. Oh boy, folks, we got a big second half. Then we'll be looking at CR for stimulus 1, 2, and 3, and 4.0, and that SS300. Great news across the land, and the big money in that fourth stimulus recon. We got a big second half. It's a preview of tonight's evening's LA. You do not want to miss that show. It's America's most watched show for financial news in prime time, and it's coming up tonight at 5 o'clock. A special report, 1 hour broadcast. Don't miss it. And so with that, I want you part of this incredible family, and go in this video and subscribe. Like this video, 2,000-3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. You don't want to miss a single video across the board, and you certainly don't want to watch that 1 hour special report of Evenings LA tonight in prime time. The #1 most watched financial show in America at 5 o'clock. Let's go into the incredible Build Back Better Act and where it is right today, this morning, and where CR for Stimulus 1.0 is as well. Build Back Better Act will get passed as the President of the United States during that State of the Union address this week, name checking it over and over. That includes the potential MSCs, but CR for Stimulus 1.0 sooner. CR for Stimulus situation is very good. $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds still in there. Bipartisan support done. Bipartisan negotiations done. An inherent deadline, mid-March. And what about the president? Yeah, last week he tried to ask for some of the money for COVID. He was told no. And then during the State of the Union, he says, I'm going to ask for some more money. I said, Joe, you haven't been watching me? I told you. They said no. Well, guess what? Yes, he asked for a little bit more money again. And they're likely to say no. But don't worry if he gets some of that money, because it's not a lot of money. There's enough for a $2,000 stimulus check, so that's why you want to advocate to those legislators. This opportunity is in front of us for them to use part of the $1.5 trillion of discretionary funds for a stimulus check. So pick up the phone and advocate to those legislators and say, spend some of that money on us. Build Back Better Act will get passed, but we need some of that money right today, and we need it because it's been a time supporting Build Back Better. Now let's go into CR for Stimulus 2 and 3.0. The latest details on that is that they will merge, and they will merge in the Senate with Republican House Democratic support currently across the land. But the thing that would pay you sooner than that is the SS300. SS300 is a way to raise your benefits up an additional $200 a month right now based upon higher inflation. And you want it to happen right now before someone fixes inflation. And who is that someone? His name is Jay Powell. And here he is. SS300 was a concept created by Elizabeth Warren during her campaign for president, actually then SS200. She wanted to replace COLA with inflation. Then Joe Biden says, I'll do her platform. And he published it on joebiden.com when he became president-elect. The concept is very simple. Replace COLA as your benchmark with inflation. Every year, your benefits go up based upon what COLA is. But COLA usually is a very small number when inflation is often not. And that is why you want Joe Biden to swap out COLA with inflation right now, because inflation is at its highest level of a generation. Now, inflation cannot stay high indefinitely, and that's the job of this guy, Jay Powell, head of the Federal Reserve. His job is to bring inflation down. And I told you going into this week that he was going to give us some clarity of what he was going to do with inflation. But boy, the news he delivered was incredible. Jay Powell has 5 real options at the moment. He has 5 meetings over the next 5 months to determine how many interest rate spikes and what magnitude per meeting. Many analysts thought in 5 meetings, quarter basis point each. And then we worried 7 rates. And then we worried even higher. Well, the great news is that this week he came in and said, don't worry. Vladimir Putin is a very fluid situation. So I'm going to actually tell you what I'm doing. Wow. He didn't have to tell us. First, he told us that this month it will be a quarter basis point, the smaller of the 2 alternatives. Great. Then he actually gave us guidance for next month, saying I'm staying at a quarter basis point indefinitely. If it works, we're staying with it because I don't want to be too heavy-handed. I don't want to be too aggressive because Vladimir Putin is a very unusual variable at the issue at the moment, and I don't want to come in too strong. Great news. So the simple solution is that Joe Biden needs to make the phone call right today. Joe, I got a prepaid phone. Here you go. Make the call. Make the call. Joe Biden needs to swap out cola for inflation right now, when it's at its highest price point. Inflation is likely to stay high for at least the next 30 days. And the February jobs reports were released this minutes ago, before I went on air, and I have them for you. This is breaking news on Mornings LA. The February jobs report suggests that inflation is not coming down just yet. Why? Non-farm payrolls rose by 678,000 in the month of February. Wall Street is estimating 440,000, so more jobs were created because people had to return back to the workforce because inflation was too severe and they couldn't afford to stay at home. But were they paid more? No. So this is where stagflation comes in. You're paying more because inflation, so you have to go back to work, but you're not getting paid more. So salaries did not go up, but people went back to the workforce to afford dealing with inflation. That is what the latest data is today, and that is why SS300 is needed so importantly. Now, when we talk about SS300, that would raise your benefits up $200 a month right now if Joe Biden made the swap to inflation, and then another $100 in December because you get reassessed every year. This is why Joe Biden needs to make the phone call and make it quickly. Now, he needs to make the phone call especially because of view of what's happening elsewhere across the United States, and you know what that word is, oil. Oil's out of control, and everyone knows oil's out of control. But how badly is the situation? And what happened this morning? Well, this morning, oil and crude went even higher, and the questions were delivered, but the answers were not given. What happened? The Deputy Treasury Secretary, Wally Andamu, who's a 40-year-old Yale graduate, appeared to answer questions about what's going on with oil production in the United States and the White House's cooperation on the situation. My opinion of the situation and my opinion of watching the interview was that the Deputy Treasury Secretary was evasive, unresponsive, and giving false facts. What happened? First, he was asked, has the White House reached out to West Texas oil producers and asked them to produce more oil? He did not answer the question when asked twice. Then, when asked, well, we have a quote from West Texas oil producers who says, we're waiting here from the White House. We can produce more oil. Give us guidance and clearance to produce more oil. They say you have not reached out to us. When asked that question, he again refused to answer. What's at issue? West Texas can produce more oil. Producing more oil would bring down the price of gasoline at the pump. For us, would stabilize the price from higher levels right now to lower. But the Treasury Secretary got worse. During the interview, then he was asked about the production levels right now. The 40-year-old Yale graduate, which doesn't have particularly a lot of experience, was then asked, what levels are we at right now? He says we're at the highest levels of oil production in many, many years. Factually untrue. It's actually false information. We're actually at low production levels. Here's what's at issue. The United States can produce more oil. If we produce more oil, the price of gasoline goes down. If we produce more oil, release some of the oil in our storage, then we can release it and bring our price of gasoline down at the pump. We can also export it to our partners. The issue at hand is that we can solve our economy first, and then we can help our partners, because countries like Italy and France don't produce oil as much as we do and have to buy from Russian oil. Well, the situation is unfolding because guess what? The United States has not, in the last few days, gotten any help from partner countries. United Arab Emirates met with the OPEC nations yesterday and was asked to release some of its oil currently in storage to help countries that are dependent upon Russia, and they refused to do so. And the White House refused to do anything about the situation unfolding as well. I'll have more about tonight on Evenings LALATE, but let's turn to another subject matter that's coming into this channel, and it's wheat. Why wheat? While you and I understand the price of oil and how it could destabilize our economy, Wall Street's admitting today it is not prepared for the risk of a recession in the United States caused by a wheat crisis in Ukraine. Yes, this is a brand new subject matter. And right now, at the time of this live broadcast, the price of futures of wheat in the United States are surging out of control because of Vladimir Putin's acts of aggressions in Ukraine. While Wall Street admits that it has embedded the oil risk into the market and considered that as a potential recession for next year and the year after, it has not considered wheat as a crisis by very simple analysis. If you lived during the 1970s or remember the 1970s, you remember an oil shortage. But when have you seen a wheat shortage or something that has caused destabilization of economies based upon wheat? You haven't. And so this is not a risk that we've seen before, and it's actually a potentially more severe risk than even oil. And there's been nothing done to address the situation. Tonight on Evenings LA, I'll feature what's going on with the price of wheat, but corn is at 19 to 29 cents a bit right today. Soybeans surging from 5 to 15 cents, and Chicago wheat surging nearly 51 to 75 cents, while Kansas City wheat went up 75 cents at the time of this broadcast. This is an absolutely astronomical surge in just a few hours, and it's something that's not being assessed. Now, time to get some money. And boy, I am really excited for you, and you deserve some money. $15,000 to $80,000 of new stimulus checks are available. And this was one of those things where you wake up in the morning and you think, I don't need another shot of coffee. I just need to reread the story because I am just so excited to deliver you this breaking news. The White House's agency that oversees this, a federal agency, is now releasing $10 billion of additional stimulus funds right today for you. Yeah, you heard me right. When we look at the CR, we're looking at 1.5 trillion. This is 10 billion, and this is absolutely astronomical. This is 10 billion of additional funding that has been released in the last few minutes, and it would amount to anywhere between $15,000 to $80,000 a household. What's going on? The fund is called the Homeowner Assistance Fund. The overseer is the U.S. Department of Treasury, Janet Yellen's department. The amount, $10 billion. The average payout, $15,000 to $80,000 per household. Wow. Let's go over generally what it is first, and then we'll go over the specifics. This is a breaking news report. You're hearing for the first time live on Mornings LA. And if you've been with me for a while, you know money comes, we pounce as Purple Hawks, because it ain't around forever. I'll be staying on it over the next few days and getting you more details as it unfolds. This $10 billion of $15,000 to $80,000 of checks is available for any family who needs assistance with mortgage or housing-related expenses. The language is incredible because it's not just mortgage. More about that in a second. While you think that the pandemic may be over, that mask mandates have been lifted, while third stimulus is finished, this is something in addition to all that. And what is it? First, it's called the Homeowners Assistance Fund. Number two, it's overseen by the U.S. Department of Treasury, but it's administered at a state level. So it's your state, not your city, not your county. It can be administered in a different way, but generally at the state level. It's not available in New York. Has it gone live? In many cases, the program has not gone live at the time of this broadcast, but may go live shortly. If you remember, this channel launched on April 25th, 2020, 3 days before PUA went live in some states. Eventually, PUA went live 2 months later in other states. So this is a very big breaking news story right now. How do you qualify? What income levels? First, you do not generally have to be behind on any bills. I'm going to say that again. You don't have to be behind on any bills. Number two, this applies to generally the same income qualifications covered on this channel. Remember the beach shots where I always say single individual, $75,000 or less, married couple, $150,000 or less, the four guys, family of four, yeah, remember? Same income qualifications. It is generally, well, household income is 150% of your average. Your household income must be 150% below your average median income, or 80,000, whichever is higher. So about 80,000 less, single individual. It applies for relief for a primary residence. Now, the National Council of State Housing Agency has now established a map, and I'll be merging into this channel because it's breaking news. I just got it just a second ago. And some states are still getting their places put on the map, so it's very, very fluid. They haven't even opened the programs in some places of where you apply in your state. Now it gets even better. What is this money to be used for? Depending on your state, the expenses include covering items which many viewers have asked for me for over 2 years, or a year and a half, for coverage. And often I didn't have these types of funds available covered on this channel. First time we have them. They include coverage for mortgage payments, property taxes for the first time on this channel, homeowners insurance for the first time on this channel, association fees, utilities, and certain home repairs. The average payout is about $15,000 to $80,000. I'll feature more about this tonight on Evenings LA. Wow, really just incredible, great news. Now, this is an addition to third stimulus, which has been such a success story for the viewership of the channel. And if you haven't gotten third stimulus, boy, viewers are just getting big sums of money on this on a daily basis. Where do you get that big money from third stimulus? In addition to this money, which is another pot of money. Get your pen and paper ready, get that newsletter out. Let's go over how to get that big third stimulus money right now. I'm so excited for you. You ready? Here we go. You're going to reach out to 6 places. Your city hall, your city house authority. Your county hall, and your county house authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID. Now remember to say the key words. And in fact, the program I just went over is the same concept. And that's why it's always important to say the right words. Or mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. There you go. And must reach out to all 6 places. Again, we're going over third stimulus at this part of this recording. This is different in addition to that $15,000 to $80,000 of stimulus checks we just went over a second ago. And then you must put multiple applications on file, do multiple rounds. The success stories have been incredible because viewers sign up for that membership newsletter under the video's link and get the incredible money. And as I learn more about this new $80,000 of stimulus checks, it'll be merged into the newsletter for you as members as well. And when we learn about the map, that will potentially be included as well. Sign up for that incredible membership newsletter today and get that incredible details across the land. Rely on the nonprofits when getting third stimulus because guess what? The nonprofits help you across the board in ways that we often forget. Now, when we look at the big success stories that came in for rent in the last 24 hours from third stimulus, they're growing by the minute, folks. And these are incredible success stories. So I want you to get these big sums of money. How much money are viewers getting? Well, Lorraine, she'll be featuring tonight on Evenings LA. She got, you ready for this? 70% of her rent paid for the next 9 years. And then she'll get it paid permanently for her lifetime. Incredible. Viewers, this channel are really taking the information and running with it. When I say 1 round, I say 3 to 5 months of rent. Viewers are now getting 1 year of rent, 7 years of rent, 9 years of rent, or in the case of Lorraine, a generation. So really take the information from this channel and run with it because sometimes locally you can do bigger and bolder things than even I know you can. I have complete faith in you, so push and get those big sums of money. Now, lean on those nonprofits to get those sums of money, and the average viewer of this channel has gotten $45,000 from third stimulus. Get that money across the board. Meantime, do it today. Don't wait, and don't wait another second. When we look at the situation unfolding overseas is impacting the price of oil at home, but a new bipartisan group has asked for the White House to release more oil across the land. The situation is that as there's less oil available, the price of oil goes up. And as oil goes up, the dependency on Russia remains there. That is why the United States needs to produce more oil, and it also needs its partner countries like United Arab Emirates to release some of its oils so that other countries can get some. What happens is that when Vladimir Putin makes acts of aggression, what he's trying to do is strangle places economically. He's trying to deal with it economically. And let me go over the details of that right now. You look at the beautiful upper house of Odessa, featured on Evenings LA tonight. I'll have an update about Odessa. But the situation unfolding right now with Vladimir Putin, my shirt says I stand with Ukraine, it's a little bit out of frame, there you go, is that Vladimir Putin is trying to strangle economically Ukraine. Overnight, you saw a lot about what's happening with a nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Let me tell you what happened and what didn't happen. Vladimir Putin wants to run a propaganda element to scare people that he's going to create a nuclear event. He's not at the moment. And last night, he had Russian bots on social media basically trying to tell you that this Ukrainian nuclear power plant operates like other power plants, and that if there was an event, then we could have big health issues. Untrue. It's not that type of plant. So that was his propaganda media blitz. But he's not there at the plant just to run a propaganda game to scare people out of their feet. What is he trying to do, and what has he achieved? He has taken the power plant, and his goal is to cripple the power in Ukraine. This nuclear power plant powers 80% of the entire country of Ukraine. And now he's in control of the power. So that is his goal. He is not trying to blow up the plant. He's not trying to cause anything inherent to the environment. And there hasn't been no inherent cause to the environment, says analysts. But his goal is to control the power of Ukraine. And today, at the time of this live broadcast, he controls about 80% of that comes out of that location. What's important is that the location is in the center of Ukraine. So Vladimir Putin has moved in from the sea and is now in the center of Ukraine. But when we look at Odessa, featured last night on Evenings LA, what is he trying to do there? He's not trying to cause cultural destruction inherently. You look at the beautiful opera house. What he's trying to do is take the number one most important port city of the country. Imagine if you can't import anything into the number one port of the country, then you have crippled that economy in another way. So he's trying to take Odessa to control the imports and exports into Ukraine. Hasn't taken it yet. And the advances of Russia continue by the moment. It's a little bit different than the city of Gershon, featured the day before on this channel, which was really just a horrible state of massive destruction and catastrophe, cluster bombing, and horrible acts of aggression. That was simply no rhyme or reason and no strategic advances, just pure desecration by an act of a tyrant. When we look at the situation in Odessa, this is the latest move as the number of refugees grow by the minute. 500,000 refugees 2 days ago, 1 million yesterday, potentially 10 million by the weekend. And the situation is very fluid as certain countries are now seeing the economic burden that this is all creating. And even at home, Wall Street analysts think that maybe we haven't assessed some of our risks as well. When that Treasury Secretary was unresponsive about issues like oil this morning, I was unhappy because guess what? Oil is not particularly a difficult concept, but when we talk about things like wheat and soybean, that's impacted on things like the agrarian cycle, that you can only harvest part of the year, you can only till the soil part of the year. If you lose that year's crops, then you lose 2 years of crops. It's a little bit more complicated than just pumping oil and putting it in a barrel and storing it. If you can't get on point with a 40-year-old graduate during an interview and answer very simple questions on something like oil, then what are we going to do about something like wheat, which is a little bit more complicated? That's not something that crypto channels would usually cover. It's a lot more complicated. And have you ever seen an economic environment of inflation caused by wheat? Well, you could. And that's something not being assessed right today. I'll feature more about that tonight on Evenings LA because guess what, folks? There's a lot of this story to be covered, and it all impacts your wallet. The great news, $15,000 to $80,000 more of checks now available for items that many viewers have asked for over a year and a half of this channel. They'll be featured tonight on Evenings LA during that special 1 hour broadcast. Meantime, coming up next is I Stand With Ukraine. If you're watching this live at 9 a.m., at 11 a.m. is I Stand With Ukraine, the home edition, in which I go more over what's happening in Ukraine and impacts us at home, of more commentary of what is being done and not being done by the White House and our allied countries, and what Vladimir Putin is doing now and could be doing next that impacts world economies and also your wallet at home. All those details coming up in just 2 hours from now. I look forward to seeing you then. It's live, it's 11 o'clock, and it's home. And this has been Mornings.